A warm welcome to another exciting edition of Democracy and the Rule of Law, a program where we'll take a look at topical national issues from the perspective of the rule of law and the Constitution. My name is Judith Erenua. Things fell apart and the center could barely hold last week Wednesday as suspected hoodlums stormed the hallowed chamber of the Senate and carted away the mace, which is the symbol of authority. And later on in the program today, we'll also take a look at senators calling on the federal government to sack all service chiefs. First, let me introduce our guest on the show, and we'll delve into the topic as it's a very, very interesting one. You agree with me. Welcome, Barrister Tunde Kolawole.
Thanks for having me, Judith.
All right.
And a beautiful afternoon to all the people listening to us.
All right. Barrister Michael Munden, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, viewers.
And Barrister Shakir Amolaja, it's been a while.
It's been a while, and I apologize. It's not as if I have not been invited, but I have been busy. My sincere apologies.
All right.
And thank you for inviting me.
All right. I wanted to have that on camera, actually. All right. Unidentified persons on Wednesday invaded the Senate chambers and disrupted the ongoing proceedings. The invaders snatched the mace and took it away. Reports say the men are supporters of Senator Ovie Omoagege, who was suspended last week. The snatching of the mace comes a week after Senator Omoagege was suspended by the Senate for 90 legislative days. The Senate suspended the senator during plenary over the remarks he made at a press conference that the amendment of the 2010 Electoral Act, which changes the sequence of elections set by INEC, is targeted at President Muhammadu Buhari. Although the senator on the 21st of February apologized to the Senate over his comment about the Electoral Act amendment, the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges had recommended in its report that Senator Omoagege be suspended for 101 legislative days, but the Senate President Bukola Saraki recommended that it be reduced to 90 legislative days. Let's take a look at the drama which ensued last week Wednesday. I'll be right back. Just stay with us. All right, I think we'll just continue the show while we await that particular visual, but that visual included when hoodlums entered the Senate and snatched away the symbol of authority. And let me quickly, before we start discussions, quickly take us through a history of mace snatching in Nigeria. That was not the first time, actually. And investigations have shown the snatching of mace, the symbol of authority in the Nigerian lawmaking institutions, had a root in the First Republic's Western region. That's 1965. Okay, I think that visual is up. Okay, as I was saying, it had its root in the First Republic's Western region in 1965. Following the crisis that ensued between the leadership of the defunct Action Group and the premier of the region. As a result of the crisis, late Chief Obafemi Awolowo led some members of the Western Assembly to remove the premier, that's Chief Samuel Akintola, and the governor of the region. Consequently, the development split the lawmakers into two factions, thereby leading to a mild drama on the floor of the House, and in the process, a member representing Badagry East, Mr. Ebubedike, snatched the mace and made away with it. In a similar development, a year after the return of democracy from decades of military dictatorship, Nigeria witnessed a second incident of mace snatching at the National Assembly in Abuja. Just like the case in the Western region, it was a clash of interest between the President, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, and the leader of the Senate then, Chuba Okadibu. As a result of the crisis between the two leaders, some senators loyal to the President moved for the impeachment of the Senate President, Chief Chuba Okadibu, and because he knew the significance of the mace in the legislative proceedings, the Senate leader sneaked away from the National Assembly with the mace to his house in Abuja before he eventually shipped it away to his village in Anambra in a bid to frustrate his impeachment process. The same thing happened in Rivers State in 2013 during the reign of Rotimi Amechi as the state governor then. It was also a tussle between two political blocs in the state that divided the State House of Assembly, one loyal to Amechi and the other to the then State Minister of Education and the current governor of the state, Nyesom Wike. 27 members were loyal to the governor and 5 pledged loyalty to Wike. The crisis started when the 5 members on Wike's bloc announced their move to impeach the Speaker of the House, Otelebama Amachiri. 27 other members loyal to Amaechi decided to take away the mace, and the battle ensued until 3 of the 5 members were injured. That is a very popular one on Galaxy News. When you watch Galaxy News, you see that breaker. And similarly, on the 24th of September 2013, a mace mysteriously disappeared from the Kaduna State House of Assembly. In the heat of the political struggle in the House to impeach a speaker, then Alhaji Usman Gangara and other leaders of the House a committee was set up to investigate the disappearance of the mace, and the speaker was found culpable and he was suspended for 3 months. Let's see if we can view the visual once again.
We have a plethora of authorities, including but not
Thank you for staying with us, and that is what transpired on the floor of the hallowed Senate chambers on Wednesday, last week Wednesday, when the symbol of authority was carted away. I'll start with you, Barrister Shakira Molaja. I just read a history of mace, the desecration, let me put it that way, the desecration of the symbol of authority over the years in Nigeria. It has happened before. And according to what they say, we're supposed to learn from history. History is there to direct us so as not to make a similar mistake, and now it is occurring again. In the 21st century, what do you feel about this? How did you feel when this happened last week, Wednesday?
It is occurring because those who started it never got punished. There was no deterrence, and because there was no deterrence, there was a total failure of sanction. So why would others not do it? And you asked, how did I feel? Sincerely, I was only amused that here we go again. Why would I be amused at such a development, otherwise shocking development? But please, my sister, Nigerians, I wasn't shocked. Like it is usual. The failure of our system is usual. Is anybody telling me that what we watched is not carefully scripted, carefully choreographed, carefully executed? Look at the way Omo Agege entered the Senate. Look at the entourage that entered with him. Look at the introduction to the guys getting to eventually snatch the mace. the question is this. Like somebody reacted in lamenting this extremely ugly, sad, and disturbing development. He said, as an individual, make the attempt to enter the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That as an individual, our friends, our colleagues who are based in Abuja, go and carry out this experiment. There are about 3 security outposts, 3 security stations. The first gate, the second gate, the third gate. What happened to all these security paraphernalia? What happened to all these well-armed, well-equipped policemen and police officers? It only means one thing. The security on that day was compromised, possibly from the highest level possible. Because, look, let us assume that because each senator, according to what some of them have explained, is entitled to his own private security agents, private security bodyguards and whatever. So, assuming, without considering, that those who were seen with Senator Omar Agege were his personal guards and whatever. But the unusual manner in which a man who ordinarily, now we will discuss that, was on suspension.
Yes.
If he came, should the alarm not have been raised? A man who ordinarily should not be on the floor of the Senate.
Or the premises at that, due to his suspension.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, that is it. Should, if we were alert to our responsibilities, a man who ordinarily, I'm using the word ordinarily, advisedly, should not be there. Then all the security agents, if they knew what they were doing, if they were not part of the game, would have been alerted that something unusual was about to take place. Now, let's give it to them that they did not know. How about when this mace was snatched? This man who snatched the mace became so invincible, unconquerable. They became also invisible. Nobody could see them.
The security men
the
at
three gates, the 3 gates,
yeah,
such that they actually left with the mace. Only very conveniently, perhaps after a hot pursuit by our diligent police officers, they now found the mace in an abandoned vehicle. I am not fooled. Nigerians should not be fooled.
All right. He just pointed out a situation whereby if you've been to the National Assembly before, I've been there and I know how tight that security is from the first gate before you can even gain access into the National Assembly. So that's another story. But in this particular scenario, with the rigorous checks people are subjected to in the National Assembly before you gain entrance, then a few hoodlums came in, stole the mace, and successfully left. How do you feel about this?
Very well, Judith. As my colleague has said, it's very sad. It's really very, very sad. And the unfortunate thing is that the whole world is just watching what is going on in Nigeria. On that day, there were some parliamentarians from Ghana who came to watch the proceedings and they saw what happened. I'm told that the Deputy Senate President, who was actually the presiding officer, apologized and said, "Gentlemen, this is not what this is not how we normally operate." But it's a very big shame to the entire world. You see, so you see, I see just like my colleague has said, I see the hand of Esau inside this. The hand is that of Esau, but the voice is that of Jacob. Because there is nowhere this Agege man of a human being would have been able to penetrate the National Assembly without being hindered, because he was on suspension. That is one. 2, he came in with people who are strangers to the National Assembly. And you don't enter the National Assembly like that. The third one is that, from what I read somewhere, that these people even left, I'm told they came in from the gate, that they left the National Assembly from the gate that is supposed to be used only by the president from Aso Rock into the National Assembly. Whenever he comes to address that gate is never open. But these people left that premises through that gate. It is very, very unfortunate. It means that there is something wrong somewhere. My own thinking, my disturbance is that I don't know what the motive was in the entire scenario. Because was it to destabilize the National Assembly? Was it to remove the leadership of the National? What was the purpose? What was the motive behind it? That you now push the country into this kind of shameful act, and the whole world is just laughing us to stop. You see, if nothing is done about this particular incident, it would just be too bad, because we have gotten it too many times, and we cannot afford to allow this particular incident to go the way that others had gone. I saw it that they said that the police arrested Oviomo Agege, and then the next moment I saw he tweeted that he was not arrested, he was just being escorted out of the danger zone, that he's staying in his house and drinking tea as he's tweeting this. You see, that kind of a thing is not funny. It means that the man has not been arrested. He did all that. Well, we have heard that the people that went with him have eventually been arrested. They might even go and pick some other innocent people just to ensure that the whole thing looks as if it is they are working. You understand? I'm really disturbed about the way the legislatures, the way the executive, in fact, the way the entire scenario is going, because the whole thing started from the judiciary. The judiciary gave a judgment that the legislature has no power to suspend a legislator. Now, that judgment is still extant. Is still in existence. And then, although I'm not going to discuss the merit and demerit of that particular judgment, because it's somehow the legislature has its own rules. They are bound by their rules. What happens is that no matter your own right, everybody has a right under the Constitution, free association and all that. But that right is subject to the rules of the organization that you belong. You cannot say that because I have a right of free association, freedom of association, then when I belong to a particular club, I mess up, they cannot suspend me. They cannot tell me to go, they cannot dismiss me. That is wrong. Your right is contingent upon the other person's right. Where your own stops is where another person's begin.
All right, Barrister Tunde Kolawole, are you not concerned about the efficiency and the competence of the security arrangement in the National Assembly at this point?
Well, Judith, let me quickly say that the matter at hand is not that of security. And I'm also going to depart or disagree or take a different opinion from what my two learned friends have taken. When you look at the chronicle, the antecedents of the snatching of mace that you have read to us today, you will see that the underlying factor has always been that of politics. You said in the First Republic, there was a difference between Chief Obafemi Awolowo and that of Akintola. It led to the snatching of mace. In Delta State, Rotimi Amechi and
Rivers State,
Rotimi Amechi and Wike. Not too long ago, too, in Kogi State, there were also disturbances on the floor of the House. When there are such things, you should not look at it as a kind of security challenge, because the issue is this: both the two combatants, in all the scenarios that were painted, are always guarded and given adequate security by the state. So if they are, there is no way the security people who are manning the gates of the National Assembly could have stopped Omagege with his own battalion of security from entering the National Assembly without some serious issues in there. So issues that are political should be seen and decided and looked at politically.
So the security arrangements at that point are not.
They had the serious challenge in the house as regards which side to really protect when scenarios are like that.
All right.
But let me also emphasize this. While I do agree that what happened on the floor of the National Assembly is a gross misconduct and nothing to be condoned by anybody. Yes. And when you look at the Legislative Powers and Privileges Act and all that, and also laws in the respective states of the state. And also you also look at the criminal code and penal code. It says very, very unambiguously that whoever tried to disturb the legislative or parliamentary proceedings for one reason or the other is liable, is committed the crime, and could either be jailed, sentenced or imprisonment, or even fined. But you see, what we have in our, especially this last one, doesn't follow the same pattern. Why do I say it doesn't follow the same pattern? Look at the antecedent. Some people make a law and say, look, let the presidential elections come last, and then let the other elections take place first. And then some of the colleagues said, it means that the National Assembly or the Senate was divided. Ditto for the House of Representatives. If there had been consensus, or if it is not a few individuals that took the decision and tried to ram it down the throats of the other person, the kind of polarity that we saw in the National Assembly would not have been there. They would have been speaking with one voice. And immediately that polarity became obvious, and people like Omagige and Co and some other senators and others were protesting that. What I expected the National Assembly to do is to come out and explain the ration d'etat. What was the reason why they decided that the National Assembly, the presidential election, should come last? Up till now, we haven't seen any tangible explanation from these people. And again, Omagige came and said, look, I'm sorry, my brothers. He apologized on the floor of the House. If he had deemed it fit to apologize and all that, one would have thought that at best, he could be rebuked and then reprimanded. But when you look at the antecedent of this National Assembly, anybody who has sided with the executive arm of government, anybody who has dared to voice a dissenting voice, the leadership in the National Assembly has only descended on them with a sledgehammer. You look at the Ndume case. Yes, I live in You look at the boy in the House of Representatives, Jubril. And also you look at some of these other cases that we have seen. And what is the reason for this? The National Assembly is divided. There are some who are pro-executive, others who are in support of the leadership. And that has always been there since the present leadership came in there. And how did they come in there? Contrary to what the party had proposed, these people went, you could even describe it as a coup. They carried out a coup, imposed themselves with the majority they were able to mobilize on the National Assembly. And that dust has not settled up till now. So, my take is this. If you have a leadership that is so intolerant to dissent, if you have a leadership that does not brook opposition, and all coupists in history don't brook opposition, go and check our political history. Each time a military leader has carried out a coup and succeeded and imposed himself as head of state, anybody has always voiced a force of dissent, they will label them, they will organize and say they have tried to carry out a coup, set up a military tribunal and execute them.
All right, thank you
that
very
is the kind of scenario
we'll
that we
get
are
to the issue of
the
leadership in the National Assembly.
What is happening is, I don't want to see it as I don't want to see it as a kind of challenge to the institution of the Senate or the National Assembly. Okay. Rather, it is a protest against the tyrannical manner in which the leadership of the National Assembly has been managing the affairs of that place. Okay. And rather than condemn these people, we should see them as people who are trying to liberate the National Assembly from certain forms of tyranny. Right. And if Nigerian people are going to be discarnate, I think it's a very good opportunity for us to even move into the National Assembly and close that assembly. And insist that the National Assembly people should begin to obey the law that they make themselves. Right. Should begin to earn the salary that is prescribed by the revenue mobilization.
I completely disagree with my friend on this issue.
All right.
Completely. Because if you see, if the National Assembly is pro-executive, we have a challenge. The legislature is supposed to be an independent arm of government. The executive, an independent arm of government, and the judiciary. So if you have any interference, if you have a situation that the national, or you coin or you prompt the National Assembly to be pro a particular arm of government, then you are going to have a serious problem in that country. And that is why anything that is done, I see the leadership of this National Assembly as being independent. Anything you are trying to do to bring in, to make them subservient to the executive, they try to resist it. And you see, this issue of this man trying to play the ostrich I see it as something that I think is a personal ambition that the man is trying to execute. Who is Ovieomo Agege? This man is a lawyer that was called to bar since 1986. Married to a lawyer, the wife is a lawyer too. The father was a judge.
A justice.
And then this man is supposed to know the right thing. You understand? And then he now went, he was the only one that was actually elected into the Senate from their state, from a different political platform, and that is Labour Party. You understand? He just decamped into APC in March 2017, last year. You could remember that when Dino Melea was contributing to the issue, where he said that when I was running around the entire nation campaigning for Buhari to be elected, Omo Agege was laboring in Labour Party. And the man just came up and he's trying to show that he's trying to weep louder than the bereaved. The presidency is not saying that they are going to fight out that it must be the way they want in this issue, because they discover that with or without them, if the National Assembly makes up its mind to ensure that this bill becomes law, it will become law. And so there is no need for somebody to start fighting and looking for all ways to endear the executive or the presidency into his own side. And so anything that is done by the legislature to try to tilt towards the executive or the judiciary is something that is very dangerous for democracy.
All right, you all have, you're making me go on to this issue of the leadership in the National Assembly. I was going to keep that question for another time, but let's just discuss it. Barrister Shakir, where we have leadership that's always at loggerheads with dissenting voices, is this not a time for the leadership of the National Assembly to re-examine the way it is piloting the affairs of the National Assembly? Is this not a call for action?
Honestly, I sympathize with the party called APC. I sympathize with the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and I disagree vehemently with the submission of my learned friend to my immediate left that he just made. How on earth can a house that is divided against itself stand? The parliament, the executive, the judiciary, they are but agents for only one entity, the country called Nigeria. So if they are this infighting ever so, how can the soul of Nigeria be liberated? So I submit, I disagree seriously. What is the purpose of the legislature? It is to legislate for the country, to take us from our dead laws to progressive laws. That's why they are described as an organic organ of government, to become relevant to the demands of the present day, to take us from our terrible, operable laws, unsupportable laws, and give us laws that will be in consonance with modern day governance. How about a National Assembly that legislates for Nigerians, or for Nigerians, and for the country called Nigeria, that let every secondary school be fully computerized? Where is that law that says that the legislators or the legislators must always fight the executive? I ask again, how can they work together? The argument, yes, there's what we call separation of powers, but it does not mean antagonism of powers. Right. It does not mean intestine war between these powers. They are to play complementary roles. The legislature is to look at the needs, the lacuna in the executive. Why are they not able to deliver? They want to do something with the budget, extra budgetary provisions. How about laws that facilitate governance for Nigerians? The judiciary, we continue to complain that it continues to kill administration of justice when you see have non-lawyers, policemen, some of them only corporals, not even sergeants, prosecuting serious criminal matters in our courts. How about a legislation, state houses of assembly, passing laws to liberate the soul of Nigeria? Say, let there be a law that nobody who is not a lawyer shall prosecute any criminal case in any of our courts.
So in essence, what are you saying? This infighting is all about personal gains?
It's all about personal gains.
Exactly.
It's all about personal gains. The one reason why I should disagree with this, my learned friend, is this. Has he forgotten that there was a coup d'etat at the beginning of the 8th legislature? Or was it the 7th? When Mr. Kolawole there said...
There was no coup.
Just a minute, please. Just a minute. Just a minute. We will explain the coup. Because we are only privileged. Judith, we are only privileged to be here. Some of those who are watching us can say far better than we are saying it. And they have not forgotten the terrible facts of history that the senators-elect of APC were to meet and congratulate the president of the country before the commencement of the 8th Senate. And very conveniently, very, very conveniently, Bukola Saraki sat back in his car on the premises of the National Assembly. And very, very conveniently, when all his colleagues in the APC were gone to honor the #1 citizen of the country, they sat surreptitiously against agreement. He emerged. It did not only emerge, a stalwart, a strong PDP member also emerged. Look at what Ekore Madu is doing to the National Assembly today. Will you say, in all honesty, that Alhaji Dr. Bukola Saraki has worked in the best interest of his party, has worked in the best interest of the country? Look at, like Mr. Kolawole just said, they will target you the moment you seem to be challenging them. When the same today, Dino Melaye, who has become so popular, so vocal, he was also suspended. He went to court, and the court of the land said the legislature, the National Assembly, lacks the constitutional power to suspend anybody. That this person that come to the National Assembly, either as a senator or as a House of Rep member, by way of constitutional provisions of electioneering, for you to now suspend them. And remember, this is vital. The constitution of this country is supreme. And it says in section 1, subsection 3, that if any other law, any rule, any other provision is inconsistent with the provision of the constitution, such other law, such other rule shall be void to the extent of its inconsistency. So
in the case of the suspension of Senator Omar Agege, are you saying the suspension cannot hold?
It cannot hold. And I am glad that my learned friend there has given us a historical background to Senator Omar Agege. He is the son of an eminent jurist. His father was a justice of the High Court. He is himself a lawyer, married to a lawyer. Therefore, the man is in a position to legally examine the consequences of what has happened. Somebody is arguing among the senators that either good or bad, he should have obeyed. No, that is not the law. When a man wants to arrest me, and I am aware that it is an illegal arrest, the law allows me to resist the arrest. So it's a balancing act. We must be careful how we discuss this very, very sensitive thing. Senator Omar Agege, who is aware, our brother, our very senior, brilliant, erudite, Femi Falana, has discussed that, look, he has just concluded the case for a lady in Borno State, where a legislator was suspended. And the court, again, has said such a suspension is illegal. When it is illegal, it means only one thing in the law. It cannot stand.
All right.
It is a house of no foundation.
All right.
But we must so quickly remind Nigerians that the reason why the Senate may be saying that, well, that judgment is not binding, is that the Senate has appealed the judgment in the Ali Ndume case. So that may be the reason why. But the legal point is this, and it's vital. Until that law is set aside, you are expected to obey that judgment. And for now, tarry with suspending people. Thank you.
All right. Actually, when Omar Agege, through his spokesman, Lucky Ajos, reacted, he said, because many people were asking that why is a suspended member in the Hollow Chamber when this issue happened? But he's saying he acted based on legal advice and his understanding of the current positions of the law. That's why he resumed work and he sat with his colleagues last week, Wednesday. But now the question is, can two wrongs, the way he went about it,
make a right?
Can two wrongs
It
make
can
a
never,
right?
it can never, it can never. You see, the moment this man was suspended, he knows that the only available remedy for him is to go to court. That is the position. You cannot start fighting there, because if you fight there, you are taking laws into your hand. I don't see a situation that you say it is an illegality and because of that you want to resist. Even when a court of law, a court of competent jurisdiction has pronounced on something, and then that thing is wrong in your own thinking, in the thinking of several people, apart from the judges who sat on the matter, pronounced on it, and some of our lawyers anyway, because the reason we have lawyers is that you always have two opinions in a particular issue. There are some people that are thinking, and I also think, that that judgment was wrong. You understand? Because as I said in my foundation, I said that the moment there is a constitution that gives you the right, then you decide to subscribe to a particular association or community and all that, that has its own rules. You have to also obey those rules. If you don't obey those rules, you cannot say because they say that I must belong to this organization, then I have to do what I like to remain there. When you disobey and they say you cannot stay here again, get out. You understand what I'm saying? So that is the analogy that I'm stressing here. So if Omar Agege had, in the circumstance, discovered that what the Senate did was wrong legally, then there's no way he can, as a lawyer, stand up there and start fighting. There's no way he should hire some thugs to go into the National Assembly and cause havoc and disrupt proceedings and expect to be given a pat on the back. It's wrong. So he should have gone to court to protest against that suspension, and that is the only right thing to do in the circumstance. Any other thing that somebody says he should have done, I mean, it's right for him to go into the place, is wrong. Two wrongs can never make a right. That is my own thinking in this direction.
Right. What are the legal implications in all of this stealing of the mace, though it has been recovered? However, what legal implications do you think this has?
Well, before I address that, let me quickly revisit a few of the points that have been raised by my two learned friends. The question I want to pose is this. Has this Senate, or even the National Assembly as a whole, ever suspended any of its members, either for embezzlement of public funds, for non-completion of constituency projects?
Thank you.
Or even for being accused of chasing prostitutes on the streets of America when they went to do certain courses in those places? And not too long ago, a senator was advertised on the internet, on YouTube. He took two prostitutes to a hotel and the proceeding was recorded and then shown on YouTube. Has his colleagues ever bothered to ask him questions? Go and check. All the people who are being punished, who are being disgraced, whose constituency has been denied representation and all that, are people who have had a dissenting opinion from the leadership of the National Assembly.
Freedom of speech.
And you see, Chief Ganifa Emi said one thing, that it is a crime. Thank God we are celebrating his 80th birthday today. Yeah. That it is a crime to be lawful in a lawless society.
God bless you.
That
the National Assembly is not lawless. It's not lawless.
An assembly,
I am not a gentleman at all.
Exactly. An assembly that does not respect its own appropriation the law. No. Is it lawless? I mean, is it lawful? It's not lawful. So are the fundamental issues that we should begin to see this in. If they would obey the law that they make, and then also treat individual members with some respect and not disgracefully the way they do it, I am sure some of the problem we're having in that allo chamber, if it could be described as an allo chamber, will not be there. Now to the point you made about the snatching of the pace, what is the legal implication? There are a lot. You know, in my opening remarks, I have said that when you look at legislative privileges and Rights Act and all that, it totally prescribes, says that if you go to the National Assembly and you do anything that disturbs the proceedings, you make the place become rowdy, you snatch the mace, or do anything that is not expected to be done in that so-called chamber, hallowed chamber, you have committed a crime. If you also look at the criminal code and the penal code, it says in public place, anybody who conducts himself in a very rowdy manner, it's like, you have committed a crime, then you could be punished. No? The issue now is if the police goes in there and conduct their own investigations and find that maybe Omagigi was the sponsor of the mayhem or the snatching of the mace, and they also apprehended those who actually carried out the snatching of the mace and all that, and then it is discovered, because you see in every crime there must be
the likely charges they will be slammed with?
What is the mens rea? What is the mens rea?
All right, and what are the likely charges they will be slammed with? Is it public disturbance? What would it be? I'd like to know.
One, it is, you are not supposed to exert any force. You are not supposed to disrupt.
Okay.
The proceeding.
That's
a crime.
Okay.
You are also not supposed to apply force in such a manner as to force the Senate or the National Assembly to do certain things otherwise they have not planned to do.
Okay.
And know that you also saw that certain persons were injured during the snatcher. And then where the mace was also dumped is not a actual place where the mace as symbol of authority of the legislator is expected to be found. So a series of crimes have been committed in that respect. And if the police goes in there and do their investigations, and they are able to arrest the appropriate people and all that, and then the mens rea for the commission of this crime is also looked at, then these people can be taken to court, and they may be liable to imprisonment or even fine, as the court may so decide. For Omagege, maybe it could be said he sponsored, conspiracy also comes in there regarding what happened on the floor of the house and all that. So he could be brought in under conspiracy, even though he didn't actually.
He said he was not a party to the entire thing.
But even if outside the chamber,
he has forgotten that
even if outside the chamber he had colluded, even if outside the chamber he had colluded with these people in planning the invasion of the Senate to carry out that dastardly exercise and all that, and of course, like I say, he could also be punished. But the argument would be that if Omagege had gone to court too, and the court is already looking into his case, should he engage himself in the manner in which he has done it? That is another, he could be cited for contempt or whatever.
Because he's already in court.
He's already in court when the court, when the matter reopens and all that. That is if the prosecutor remembers to also raise that issue. So a series of crimes have been committed. But again, there are also certain privileges that when certain things happen on the floor of the house, especially among members and all that, there are also privileges in which you cannot prosecute them for whatever takes place in there. Because more importantly, when we have had different authorities and decisions of the court of law that say there is a Dinamele case, there is in the Dume case, there was a Bauchi case, you have also cited the Sokoto, the Prono case in which Falana defended somebody recently, and then the courts have been unambiguous and said, look, the right to discipline your member is not, does not override the constitutional provision that says a legislator must exercise his full right under the constitution to represent his constituency, to make laws and carry out oversight function.
All right,
which
thank you.
The suspensions of all these people that we have mentioned tend to deny their respective constituency of.
All right, thank you. Now let's look at the political implication. You're preparing for the general election come 2019. Could this, the invasion of the Senate, could it symbolize what we are likely to see ahead, the journey to the 2019 general elections? Do you feel so?
In the question is contained the answer.
I'll still like you to answer.
Thank you. Because we said, what brought about the suspension of Omar Agege? He said, the reordering, which incidentally is not the business of the legislature. It's not the business of our legislators. There's a body called INEC, a constitutional body seized with the function of ordering elections. But because the fact that it will not go the way of the coup they are all having in mind again, they must reorder it to execute another coup. Omar Agege simply exercised one of his fundamental rights, constitutional rights, freedom of expression, and said, in my opinion, this your attempt to reverse the order of election by INEC is targeted at the president of the country. What has he? It is only a constitutional expression of his right. Who has he offended? But because the cabal, the powers that be, the culprits who today are enjoying the fruit of their coup. Because I am still asking myself, and again let me repeat, I feel sorry for that party called APC. They had power, but they were not prepared for the power they were given. They had a lot of beautiful ideas. They were not prepared for execution. And people who were masters of subterfuge have stolen the mandate from them. So towards 2019, you are beginning to see the game plan. I even heard this morning, I don't know how far that is true, that they are trying to change the name of PDP to whatever. It is all in an attempt to control resources. Politics, definition of politics. Struggle to control resources, to control power, to take over the governance of the country. That is, Omar Agege has did not even set the ball rolling. We are all grandstanding, preparing. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. Buhari should run, he should not run. Do you know how many past presidents have told Buhari not to run again? The question some of us are trying to ask them, who made them Mr. Solomon? Who made them so wise now? Babangida was there for 9 years. Our father Obasanjo was there for 8 years. The wisdom they're exhibiting now, where was that wisdom? If Nigerians still decide to give the mandate to Alhaji Buhari, either slow or fast,
So be it.
so be it.
Right.
It is the expression of the will of Nigerians. If they want a younger person, let Nigerians speak. But these leaders should please spare us, thinking that they know it far better than the rest of us. They led us to this wala. They led us to where we are today.
All right.
I still believe that what an old man can see sitting, a young man cannot see standing. These our past leaders, they have been there. They know exactly what goes on, and they know exactly what we want. Some of them were not able to actually carry out their plans, carry out what they felt should be done, maybe because of one political power, interest or the other. But when they left, some of them are now regretting, if I had known, I would have done this.
When
And
Buhari leaves office, it will also be advising the next president.
that is why it is important for somebody not to just push them aside. To be very careful, because when they see something and they feel this is how it should be done, and then they advise, people should try and take the advice. Because if you wish it aside, you might discover that you are actually digging the grave of the nation. And so, on the issue of this, the legal implication of removing the mace, I want to say that this mace of a thing they say is the symbol of authority. Must we continue to have it? Can't we forget about this mace? And then because there's nothing that says that there must be a mace, there must be this symbol before you can pronounce this and all that. This colonial this mentality, and because they bequeath it to us, we continue to carry it thing. What is one small this thing that is there, they say is a symbol of authority. Remove it. People sit down in, you see, in the High Court, you don't have those things. It's only when you go to the Court of Appeal and they carry something and come and they say it's a symbol of authority. I don't subscribe to that. So I feel that this mace, we should do away with it. Thank God they even have many now, so that if they remove one, they go and bring another, because they anticipated what will happen. But it's not relevant again. Right. We should move with times.
He used his style when they stole the mace. He used his
style
belt
to keep it. So I think apart from the issue of trying to cause mayhem, to cause disruption of the proceedings and all that, this issue of carrying the mace should not be an issue at all.
All right, so let's look at the implication. Still on the implications, the youth are watching, and we have this not too young to run bill, which is yet to be signed. Though, what precedence is this setting for them with the way democracy is being practiced in Nigeria?
Well, it's not too good a precedent. Ordinarily, like he said, elders are supposed to demonstrate a good virtue.
Yes.
They must show responsibility. They must show the light so that the people behind them would have the vision to follow them. But too many times, too many places, and on too many occasions, we have found out that the leadership in this country have not been showing good example. Not just at the National Assembly, even at the executive arm of government. When you look at the performances of all the people who are there, what was Amos' age when he got in there? What was Fashola's age? You can't describe them as geroncratic, or you can't describe them as old men and all that. Even when Gowon was there, what was his age? So when you look at our political environment, age now seems not to be a serious issue as far as I'm concerned. I'm beginning to look at people's intellectual depth and people's pedigree, and then exposure. You find out when somebody like Lee Kuan or something was trying to change Singapore.
Yes.
He wasn't talking about age, he was talking about where you were coming from. He was more interested in people's exposure, in their learning, in their pedigree, in their disposition to corruption. Such as he took somebody who is a lawyer who was into business and took him to the Supreme Court and made him head of the Supreme Court, because he said, look, he has been a practicing lawyer, and he found out that some of the challenges that they have in the court is that most of the judges have no respect for time, they have no value for money, and they are not business conscious. And if a society is going to move forward, you must bring in people who really have value for some of these crucial things. Time, value for money, respect for agreements. These are very fundamental. There's no society that can move forward without respect for some of these fundamental issues. So, if the leaders in this country are going to show good example, these are areas I expect them manifestations of good faith. That you will not go to a function and say because it is African time, something that's supposed to start by 10, you arrive there by 12. Sometimes they say you should use 2 official cars, you have more than 50 that is accompanying you. The Revenue Mobilization Commission will prescribe the salary and allowances you should take. You will petition that and begin to draw your own allowances the way you deem fit. When a lot of people in the country have no 3 square meal, they are not being paid their salary regularly, they can't pay the school fees of their children and all that. So the lessons to the youth who are coming and all the people who are campaigning for the young to run is that age shouldn't be too much of an issue. Experience should be, education, learning should be, and then value for time and value for agreement should be. And then they should not copy what the older people, the bad things. Let's learn from the good things that the older people have been doing. And there are quite a lot of old men who are very, very good. I know of some old men, people like Babalakin, John Honorable Justice Babalakin. If you say you are starting the program by 8, Chief Babalakin is already there by 7:30.
Time conscious.
You're not time conscious. If for Chief Babalakin all the time he was there, black is black, white is white. You will never see him compromise justice just because of who was appearing before him and who was not appearing before him. So it is the good values in the old people that I want the young people in this society to emulate, imbibe, and copy, and not the bad ones. And the young ones should not think because of age power will just be bestowed on them on a platter of gold.
Nah.
Rather, we want to see these young people demonstrate intellectual capacity, respect for time, value for money, in the little corners in which they have found themselves. The first and foremost will be able to distinguish themselves in that little corners before they come out and say, look, I want to lead the rest of the larger society.
All right, and thank you. You're still watching Democracy and the Rule of Law, and we'll be right back.
My reaction is this. We have a plethora of authorities, including but not limited to the Court of Appeal decision, that says that the National Assembly, and specifically the Senate, has no power to suspend a senator for 1 day. Now, that judgment is a judgment in rem. It means... Are you aware that you are under arrest now? I can't be under arrest. For what purpose? Oh, yeah. Why the police are standing by your side? I can't be under arrest.
Are you playing with police? That's the instead of this. That is where you are under arrest now.
No, I'm told that I can't be open.
You can see that you are with two policemen.
Yes.
You are under arrest.
You go with the policemen. Nobody can arrest you.
But you are under arrest.
Alrighty, welcome back, and that was Senator Ovie Omoagege there with the police. Time now to move on, but still on the Senate. Worried by killings attributed to herdsmen across the country, Nigerian senators on Tuesday called for the sack of all Nigerian military chiefs and appointment of new security chiefs who can introduce new strategies to stem the ongoing slaughter of the citizens. Speaking during a debate on the reported killings of scores of villagers in Nasarawa South Central District over the weekend, the Deputy President of the Senate, Ike Ekweremadu, asked President Muhammadu Buhari to enlist the help of foreign nations in tackling the insecurity in the country. Senator Suleiman Adokwe, that's Nasarawa PDP, who moved the motion, said the attacks were carried out on people of Tiv ethnicity in Doma local government area of his state. He said the real tragedy is not in the coordination of the attacks, but that they continued for 4 days running without being checked by any of the security agencies. And he said, indeed, under the noses of the armed forces and the police, the killing is being sustained unabated by sheer negligence or refusal to act by the security agencies. The senator said there was no response from the nearby army base as the attack continued. All right, that's coming from the Senate saying the one service chiefs sacked. The question is, why? And at what point?
All right. This is my reaction. Where have they been? Have they just returned to Nigeria? All this while, were they in this country? With the ceaseless killings, unending killings in Benue, Plateau, Nasarawa, and other parts of the country, especially the northeast. On paper, Boko Haram was supposed to have been decimated, completely done away with, overpowered. Just when that was to be, what did we have? Another saga of abduction of secondary school girls. So these senators, these national legislators, where have they been? Were they really on ground? To know that the emergency was more than 2 years ago, almost at the beginning of the life of this present government. And I think they are only playing to the gallery. I think they are only grandstanding and preparing, call a dog a bad name in order to hang it. Make it clear to Nigerians or tell Nigerians that security-wise this government has failed. All the security issues have failed. So the next election, don't vote them in. And the question I will always like to ask is this. National legislators, senators, House of Rep, that bill, that promise, APC, that promise you made to Nigerians that we shall have state police, local government police, that we shall be able to police ourselves, provide security, because security is everybody's business. Some are professionals, but we could have whistleblowers, we could have citizens who will be vigilant and help the professional security providers that look at what I saw, look at what I heard, look at what I sense. Because these professionals are not magicians. Yes, there's a unit which I pray, hope is ever so well equipped, and that is the intelligence unit. But that unit, that intelligence unit, how effective has it been? So I am asking the legislators that today are waking up, where have they been? I am saying that their call is not altruistic. Their call is not just for the purpose of saving Nigeria. Their call is political.
All right. I'll hold you there. Well, now in his contribution, Senator Adiola Solomon Olamilekon, Lagos APC, asked for the sack of the current heads of the security agencies. And in his words, he said, what the president needs at this time are fresh ideas on how to tackle the numerous security challenges confronting the nation. He said the security chiefs, have exhausted all the ideas. Now the question would be, would you say Nigeria's security outfit are bereft of ideas, or they just been nonchalant about
I would not say
about
that.
the security?
I would not say that they are bereft of ideas.
Okay.
It is what my colleague has said, they are compromised. That is the word that should be used. Because you discover that, in fact, this call for them to be removed, although it is an advice, they cannot influence the president to actually, they cannot compel him to remove them. So this call has been long overdue. If you look at the situation that the girls, he mentioned it, the girls were abducted, carried from their school to a particular forest. They rode through the long distance.
For hours.
Nobody confronted them. Meanwhile, we are supposed to have a network of security men lining up the road. This is the area that this insurgency is very rampant. And you cannot expect to have 2-3 kilometers without security people. So how did these people abduct these children from the school to their hideout without any confrontation, compromise? Now, they went into the National Assembly. These people, this Omo Agege and his cohort, and the hoodlums, not say cohort, the hoodlums went into the National Assembly, and the police were watching. The people went and removed the mace, and they were running out. The police were watching up to the point that the police that are not armed are the ones inside there. The ones outside are armed. They should have stopped them. These people were not armed. So it shows that there was serious compromise. They were playing to the gallery. They allowed these things to happen. So I keep thinking, what if these people just went in there to get the presiding officer and maybe slaughter him? Would the police just look at them and then they disappear? So the security, the Nigerian security personnel, they are the best in the entire world when it comes to ideas. But they do not want to, when politics comes to play, they do not want to bring those ideas to bear. That is the situation. That is the challenge. It's not that they are bereft of ideas. Let people who will have the political will come on board so that they will not allow these things to continue. If somebody says, we are going to do so, and they send a signal to him, he will tell them, nowhere. My people are going to resist it. And it is done. You discover that the inspector general, in fact, the president at times, I don't understand how he works. Because the Inspector General of Police, he was the one that opened his mouth and said he didn't know that the man did not relocate to Benue State. And the man is still on seat. What are you doing there? Why do you allow him to continue there? With all this mass slaughter and all that. And the police are supposed to protect, they don't. So I think it is important. My colleague said, where have they been? It is better late than never. It's better at any point, let the right thing be done so that the wrongs can be ameliorated.
All right, Barrister Omolaja did mention intelligence gathering. All right, still contributing last Tuesday, Senator Jeremiah Hussaini, that's Plateau APC, blamed interagency rivalry among the heads of some of the security agencies for their failure to tackle insecurity. Called for the sack of the heads of agencies also involved in the interagency wrangling. Is interagency wrangling rivalry, we've seen it play out several times, one of the bane of security in Nigeria, do you think?
Absolutely, I agree with Senator Jeremiah Hussaini. Is he still in that so-called Aluchi?
He's still there.
You hardly hear his voice when these debates are going on. You will remember when the EFCC tried to arrest one of the former leaders, heads of the DSS. You remember what happened and all that. If there were interagency cooperation, that kind of a thing would not be happening. You also remember the man who killed people on the New Year's Day in, was it Rivers?
Don Wani.
All that. Immediately the soldiers carried out the exercise and all that. They came out very loudly on the media and say they were the one that did this and all that. Not quite a few hours later, DSS also came out and said, look, we were the one that got all the information, the logistics and where he was staying and all that. And we only invited the army to come and assist us in case the resistance will be such that we won't be able to contain it. Do you expect to start hearing this kind of a thing from security? In fact, in the other clime, security people hardly talk when it comes to issue of security. It is here that to find out everybody trying to beat their chest. They engage in exercise of self-congratulation and they want to be seen to be taking credit for whatever actions are done. Where are they expected to work behind the scenes and cooperate? In fact, on a daily basis, one should be seeing signals being exchanged between all these respective security agencies and other, but we don't see that in this climate. That everybody will try to do to please Mr. President or please the Vice President or please the people in power. They want to be seen as the one who are working the most to preserve these people in power. Whereas their responsibility is to the Nigerian people, like Barrister Shakiru has said. And you look at the constitution, there is no ambiguity about it. That the primary responsibility of government is the protection of lives and property. And this is the area in which this government has failed woefully. This is the area in which the security people have also failed us very, very woefully. And why they have failed us woefully, like you said, one of the reasons is this lack of interagency cooperation. Rather, what we are seeing is rivalry. The second one is that I find that our security men, their major preoccupation has always been to preserve the people in power, rather than concentrate their energy on their primary responsibility as prescribed for them by the Nigerian Constitution. They want to please the president, they want to please the vice president, they want to please the governor. And that is why you see all these people in the executive arm of government and the legislature behaving in such a rascally manner. Look at the number of policemen that are attached to the so-called big people in the society. There are more policemen attached to the big people in the society, the politicians and the businessmen, than there are to contain crime. So that's another challenge. As regards whether Mr. President will be able to hit the humble pie of sacking these people, I doubt it. He appointed most of them. And the basis upon which he appointed them was that he felt they are the most capable to be able to deliver with regards to whatever briefs that he gives to them. So if he now asks them to sack these people, you are indirectly asking him to indict himself, which very few people in this part of the world are able to do. The other area is elections are coming. And they say the devil you know is better than angel. Most time we people want to win election, some of the places they first lay their hand and make sure that they control is the security. They also want to control the market women and the National Union of Road Transport Workers. And then, of course, they will need financiers. Once you have all this at your disposal, with the kind of loyalty that these present security people have shown, I doubt it whether this Mr. President will have the courage to be able to remove them before the next election.
Right.
Because if he brings any people, why is he too sure they will be that amenable to his aspirations to return to power? This is my humble opinion.
All right, thank you.
Just a minute.
Okay, quickly.
The other one is that we find out this is the first time that we're having the kind of challenge that we're having since the Nigerian Civil War. Most of the people who fought the Nigerian Civil War have retired. The generation of soldiers that we have been there don't have the combat experience.
Okay.
They are seeing it for the first time. When the military was also there, you find out they weren't investing in security, arms and ammunition. Simply because the military head of state were too preoccupied with preserving themselves in power. And they think that if they empower some of these security people in terms of intelligence gathering, in terms of equipment, in terms of some of these other wherewithal, they could use those facilities to really carry out a coup against them. So the security was totally left in a deplorable condition throughout the 30 or so years of military that we have had in this country. So when they are now faced with the challenge of Boko Haram and order to respond to it the way they should, is the challenge. And lastly, most of the problem that we have in our hands in this country is self-inflicted. The Boko Haram didn't wake up overnight and start the mayhem they do. In fact, they have been endorsed by so many people. And the indulgence and patronage still continues. Most of all these big people, politicians and businessmen and all that, they go and pay homage to all those religious fundamentalists at night. They also fund them. You see a typical example here in Lagos. When a church leader defiled building plans and he was raising the building of his church and the whole thing collapsed and tens of people died. What happened? Governors, presidents were going there to pay homage to him. When they should swiftly move in there and then arrest all those who are culpable in this. So, this one for some of these other challenges, most of them are the community leader, especially what we are seeing in Benin, Nasarawa, Kogi and all that. It is the community leader that are responsible. And with the experience that the security people, the soldier, the army, the police and other have today, I doubt whether they can contain this. Without the community leaders saying enough is enough.
All right, thank you. Deputy Senate President Ikekwe Madu on that particular day did say the federal government should ask for help from other countries. Now, help in what way and in what form?
My people have a saying, a child that is to be carried must indicate by raising his arms.
Yeah.
Is Nigeria willing? Is Nigeria desirous of receiving help? At the very beginning of that saddening saga of the kidnap of the Chibok girls, specifically, Israel offered to assist Nigeria. What became of that offer? A lot of international groups, countries, offered to help Nigeria. We knew when some of them even came in, Britain, France, but do we know when they pulled out and why they pulled out? One thing I have come to know that is a dangerous truth is the federal government cannot afford to tell Nigerians the truth about our security situation. In all these places, like my learned friend here just said, security is heavily compromised. Take this example. A herdsman, they now call them militia herdsmen. That's the new expression. Came into a particular settlement in Benue State. They announced, today we are not here to kill you. Today we are not here to kill you. Just abandon your village. We want to graze our cows. Where was the security to protect the villagers and drive away the militia herdsmen? No, the herdsmen peaceably, peacefully, without any form of restraint, took over. And the villagers were sad. So this issue of asking for international assistance or reinforcement to which country? When we have just budgeted $1 billion unappropriated to fight insurgency, we some persons have said, don't mind them, that money is to prepare for election. So the question is this country really, honestly, interested in providing security to the citizenry? It is a dangerous question, no doubt. Because what we have seen so far in the Northeast, it is like, because I have asked this, I'm not a northerner, but at the point I was so confused, and I asked, where was Atiku? Where was Abubakar? Where was Babangida? Where were all these past leaders from the north? That your generation, your future generation, were being decimated. If anybody should call a high-powered meeting for the sake of northern Nigeria, these persons should come together. But from what we see, it appears that there's a secret agenda for ethnic cleansing in some parts of the north. Those who are killing, rather than get checked, they have gotten bolder. Nobody's restraining them. So this idea of calling for foreign assistance, and a professor said something very, very dangerous. I don't know whether Nigerians still remember. A professor said online that France was actually sponsoring Boko Haram. You can Google it and check. So some of these foreign countries, are we sure they are not the ones behind these terrorists so that they could do only one thing? Sell their arms.
All right.
And
let's just get this last question through and we'll wrap up. You would agree that though Nigeria is not at war, we're not at war, but so many people have died so far due to senseless killings. What is the way forward in your own opinion? Because something has to be done and done very fast.
very well. Judith, I think, in fact, the statement by the Senate President is one of the most unfortunate statements that I have heard in the recent time.
All right,
Apart
seeking for foreign
from,
help?
yes, apart from the one that was made by the president, that the youth are lazy. So, you see, it means that what he is telling Nigerians is that our security network
Has collapsed.
You have resigned to faith that we cannot do anything about our security situation.
like empower.
That is too bad. It's very, very bad. The security that we have in this nation can suppress any insurgency if they have the political will. It's the political will that we need. And that's why I say that the call for the reorganization, it should be a complete reorganization, overhaul of the security network architecture of this country. If we do that, you are going to see a different set of the same security people. You are going to see a different atmosphere, so that these people that are going about killing and doing all manner of things will no more be able to come out to do their handiwork. So what I feel should be done, the Nigerians have been trained and retrained in security and all that. They send them to overseas, to these foreign countries that he feels they should go and ask those people that to come and help us. You know, they have been trained and retrained. They have the necessary ideas. They have the experience that they should be able to execute. They should be able to secure this nation from any form of insurgency, from any form of uprising, from any form of tumult. You see, but the challenge we always have is that once there is a particular politician who is not willing for the security of that place to be the proper thing to be done, he would not allow the security people to do their work. And in the process, they would tell. Remember when the girls, the Dutch girls, were being returned? We were asking questions. How did they said the information minister said they did tactical withdrawal? What nonsense! Tactical withdrawal, and these criminals brought these people back and left. What are we talking about? It means that you are saying that in this country we can no longer protect. The security network cannot protect us. And so you are trying to let us fall back to what Danjuma said, that everybody should defend himself.
All right, I think on that note, we have to end the show today, where we did discuss the invasion of the Senate by suspected hoodlums and the theft of the mace, which is a symbol of authority, and also the Senate calling on the federal government to sack all security chiefs over killings, the recent killings in Nasarawa State. Thank you, Barrister Nicola Wale.
Thanks for having me, Judith.
Barrister Michael Bundan.
Thank you very much.
And Barrister Shakiru Molaja.
Thank you for having me.
All right, my name is Judith Renua. Join us next Sunday for another exciting edition. Thank you.